This is Everlasting Lucifer episode 39, and it's the penultimate chapter. It's called The Fire Starter. Vade, great to see you. Are you frozen again? Vade smiled. It's not warm on the train, but I'm more sensibly dressed. He gestured at his jacket, sweater, and scarf. Aren't you? You look good. You've gone a bit native, Rajan said with a twinkle. Come, the car's just here. As they walked, he put a hand on Vade's shoulder. You know, we tend to prefer the bus over the train, but it's all the same. Have you eaten? He laughed. Look at me, I'm talking as though I were your mother. But you know, you are the guest. When they were in the car, he went on. Also, there's something I wanted to show you. Not now. When we get to the plant. His eyes shone. Really? Vade said. He smiled at the big man. You're back in production? Back in production? Oh, yes. He let in the clutch and they left the station area. CFLs, tube lights, but also LEDs. We have a new range of fancy LEDs. They look like filament bulbs, very pretty. A couple of the new restaurants in Guwahati have fitted them. Almost like real light, said Vade. Rajan laughed. Good one, Vade. They were driving through town. I have a friend here, Vade said. A friend's uncle. I've been here a few times now. Jorhat, Vade, said Rajan. Wonderful place. So much history. The court used to be here, after it was in Shivsagar. And the Hai Tehoba is here. And how are things otherwise at the factory? Vade asked. Well, something unexpected happened, but things have been fine. Things are, politically a lot has been going on. I don't suppose you remember the little temple we had in the compound? I do. Piringoti Devi, said Vade. Rajan jerked his head round to look at Vade. Wonderful man, Vade, so observant. Vade began to beam before realizing he was being oiled up, as the Assamese expression has it. The oddest thing happened with the Murti, Vade, the statue. One morning we were opening up and she'd disappeared. What? Rajan was nodding vigorously. Amazing. Of course, someone must have removed her. But everything came to a halt. It was around the time we stopped making the Lucifers. We had no idea what to do. The workers were very unhappy. Who do you think took the statue? Oddest thing, Vade. They said she left, walked off. The big man widened his eyes. A moment later he looked at the road where a small, pretty cow was sitting in the middle of the lane. Rajan yanked the steering wheel. Sorry, Vade. So the statue was never found? Vade asked. Never found, Rajan said. But something else happened. We talked with the workers, listened to them, met some of their demands. An association for the factory, a table tennis room, better facilities for their meals, a bus, that sort of thing. I was torn, I admit. What they were asking for wasn't unreasonable, but you have to be careful. If people sense weakness... Vade sighed, thinking of Ketaki. But anyway, work resumed. We modified the factory line, went back to making the usual bulbs. Business is fine. No trouble, no excitement. I wonder about moving on in a little while. I don't know. But the statue, said Vade. We put in a new one, Vade. Made the temple a bit bigger. A pakka building, cement. A priest comes every morning and evening. It was one of the demands. And then I wanted to wait till we got to the factory to show you, but we found out how the fire started. What? Who was it? They passed the colourful painted bamboo walls of the restaurant where they'd stopped the first time Rajan took Vade to Moran. I don't know if you remember one of the workers. Hajong lady, you may recall her dress? It's a traditional one, a sort of striped red wrap. Very pretty. I think so, Vade said. He saw the woman's serious face, her bright clothing. We realized when we opened again she works on boxing and checking the bulbs before they are packed. A lot of flammable material around her. Card, that sort of thing. But she seemed so quiet, Vade said. Rajan laughed. Yes, he said, it wasn't deliberate. The oddest thing I've ever seen. Her skin is very dry, it seems. Working near the rubber conveyor belt made static come off her. Sparks off her body, Vade. One of them caught on some packaging and made it smoke. That's how the fire started, at the end of the day shift. And by the time we closed for the evening before a holiday, the card was smouldering, you know. He raised an eyebrow. Are you serious? Rajan nodded. Strangest thing, but then strange things do happen. Did you sack her? Sack? No, Vade. We hurried to put the Devi back in the temple, and we bought her a supply of coconut oil for her skin. Sparks off her skin, said Vade. Rajan slowed, then drove around more cows parked in the middle of the road. Women, he said with gusto. Extraordinary beings. I'm surprised more of them don't cause factory fires. Vade laughed until a tear came out, and Rajan until he made a high whinny of amusement. The next morning he texted Ketaki photographs of the red dhoti-wearing priest who did a small arti at the little box-like temple, and of the goddess, a new plaster idol, oddly devoid of mystery, with black hair, almond-shaped eyes, and red lips. It's funny, he told Rajan over a hungover cup of coffee at the big man's office before he set off. It sort of feels almost as if the idol is still missing. Rajan looked at his hands. Well, Ved, he said, of course, the idol is, what's that phrase? The object of our affection, not the affection itself. God doesn't live in a statue. Goddess, he smiled, still less, but we keep the statue to show observance, suggested Ved. These are for you, Ved, the new Lucifer, if you like. Rajan pushed a box of bulbs across the desk. They were marked filament, vintage-style bulb. Observance, he said, and twiddled one end of his moustache. Maybe just love.